come back to your vision for Telangana just for a moment, because I think that's very pertinent for the rest of the country, is that, there's technologies hurtling towards us. There's AI coming. The year that Google put $10 billion into OpenAI, they actually laid off 10,000 people. So there's a sense that there's going to be massive layoffs, that as we embrace more AI, both blue-collar jobs as well as white-collar jobs are going to be jeopardized. So, in that sense that you've got a chance to a state that did not have a legacy, with this kind of, tornado of technology coming once way, both opportunity and risk, what is your big picture thinking, if you're voted back to power, what is the gear shift that you will do now, if you're voted back to power, to plan for this new economic era?
The first thing is, I'll start off with, your last point where you said this is a new economic era. India has always been sitting on the cusp of greatness. We've always been told that, we were a great country and we definitely will become great again. We keep talking numbers. The fact is, we have the world's largest think force, the world's largest workforce. Now, how do you convert this intellectual capacity into economic prosperity? Leap of faith that unfortunately did not happen in many parts of India. Now, in my state, if I have to stick to my state, because that's where I worked for the last 9.5 years, in 2014, we had only 323,000 employees in technology sector. But with policy interventions, with interesting, interventions such as T-Hub, T-Works and others, India's largest prototyping facility, etc., we were able to multifold, had a manifold jump from 3 lakh plus to almost 1 million. Now, how did that happen? Because we kept investing in newer sectors. We kept investing on new technologies. Now, with AI looming large, with everybody talking about potential job loss. In fact, as I was flying into Chennai this morning, I was seated next to a gentleman who heads L&T Mindtree. So when I asked him about this imminent threat, imminent, challenge of job loss, he said, it's a bit overplayed. This was his perspective. He said it's a bit overplayed. It was like how most of the restaurants and service industries got rid of their employees during COVID, because they said, we don't see any hope of bouncing back in the near future. A lot of hotels were sold, a lot of hospitality industry, took a major hit. But then when it became fully functional again, it was very, very difficult to find talent. So what I would say is, in this so-called AI, AI threat, I would say there's a huge opportunity for India, especially a country like India, where you have tremendous, tremendous opportunity where, India's, for the last 2.5, 3 decades, we've been the high-value, low-cost human capital destination for Americans, for Europeans and others. That edge you will still have for another 20 years. That is not something that you're going to lose in the next 2 decades at least in the high-value sector. So therefore, I would bet big on all the applications of AI into various sectors, be it life sciences, be it healthcare, be it aerospace. As long as you're able to find that convergence point, I think India will still do great. Deep tech, India will still do amazing. So the potential job loss that people talk about is, of course, real, but I think it would affect the first world more than India or any other second, third world countries. So at this point in time, if I was voted back to government in Telangana, the first thing I would do is make sure that we equip our children, because only 30% of our STEM graduates every year who come out of colleges are employable. The biggest challenge is industry readiness of our workforce. That is something where we have to work together with the industry. That is something we haven't done well. Germany has done phenomenally well, where they have a dual degree, where you get to go to a practice school in the industry for about 6 months. That is the sort of focus I would put on. So rather than worry too much about AI and how it would impact us immediately, I would say focus more on the convergence points, focus on creating value additions and more jobs. And that is something I would focus on if I were to vote it.